Hi everyone, I hope you are doing well and fine. Today's session I will teach you it is part 2 of the lesson of last time, in which you learned the grammar translation methods. You will learn what is grammar and translation method. Also you learned some core principles of this approach. In this session, we are going to learn some typical techniques and classroom activities that we use within this approach. The grammar translation method employs a range of techniques and activities designed to reinforce grammatical rules and translation skills. So, of course, this technique or this approach makes use of a lot of techniques and strategies in order to enforce grammatical rules and translation skills. Translation exercises are the cornerstone of this approach, involving translation of sentences and passages between English and the student's native language. So one of the techniques that we use is translation exercises. As we have mentioned here, that it's the cornerstone of this approach. This activity serves as both a means of instruction and a method of assessment. So this translation exercise, it's a method of assessment and instruction, both of them. Allows to apply grammatical knowledge and demonstrate comprehension. So it gives the chance to students to apply, to implement the grammatical knowledge, the grammatical rule they have learned, and also demonstrate and show comprehension. Grammar drills are also commonly used to provide focused practice on a specific grammatical structure. Another technique that we use, apart from translation exercises, is grammar drills. So it's provide to focus practice on specific. So it gives students a focused practice on grammatical structures. These drills often involve repetition and pattern practice, such as verb conjugation exercise and sentence formation tasks, aiming to automate the application of grammatical errors. So these drills, what's the aim of these drills? It's, students apply the grammatical rules. That's the main aim of these grammar drills. Vocabulary memorization is facilitated through various techniques, including the use of flashcards and repetition of word lists with their native language equivalents. So also another techniques that we use apart from translation exercise, grammar drills, vocabulary memorization, is vocabulary memorization. So how do we memorize? Help students flashcards, repetition of word lists with their native language equivalents. Students are expected to learn these lists to build a vocabulary base for translation and reading comprehension. So what we have learned from this first part is that the techniques that we used in the classroom within this approach is translation exercises, grammar drills, vocabulary memorization. Now, another technique, let's see other techniques. For example, sentence structure analysis is another technique employed to help students understand the grammar framework of English sentences. So, students analyze the sentence structure, the part of speech and duration between the words that compose or that compose each sentence. This involves breaking down sentences to identify the part of speech and relationship, enhancing comprehension and ability to construct grammatical correctness. So, why? To help the students or learners be able to construct grammatically correct sentences. This is the aim. Why they analyze these sentences. The reading comprehension activities are integral to GTM, is grammar translation method, involving the interpretation of English text through the lens of vocabulary, grammar, and context. Students may be asked questions about the text, typically answered in their native language to gauge their understanding. So reading comprehension activities, it's an integral part of GTM, involving, what students, they interpret the English text through lens of vocabulary, they answer some comprehension question, but in their native language. Of course, now in this approach, that is grammar translation method, the students use their native language to learn the L2, that is foreign language, because the focus in this approach is on listening, on reading and writing more than speaking and listening. There is no use of speaking and listening. They don't use, so I think the use of the target language, that is for foreign language, is very limited in this approach. But what is maximized a lot, what is used a lot, it's the native language, it's the mother tongue. Fill in the blanks exercises are used to test students' knowledge of vocabulary and grammar in contextual fill in the blanks. We can ask students to fill in blanks exercises where students want to test their vocabulary and grammar rules. This exercise requires students to complete sentences and passage with missing words based on their understanding of the target language and their translation skills. Also, topic composition. When students write short passages on a given topic, allows them to practice applying their knowledge, grammar, and vocabulary in a more extended environment. So you can ask students to write a short passage where they use the vocabulary they have learned, where they use the grammatical rules they have learned. So this is topic composition. It's a technique. So we have sentence construction analyses, reading comprehension activities. We have also topic composition and fill in the blanks. This can involve translation of initial thoughts from the native language into English. Now let's move to the fifth part, or the fifth component in this lesson, that is advantages of using the grammar translation methodology. What are the advantages of using this grammar translation method? The grammar translation offers several potential benefits in the context of English language teaching. It explicit focus on grammar allows us to develop a robust understanding of language structure and mechanics. So, because the main focus is focus a lot on grammar and translation. Grammar and translation. So, this help learners have an understanding, a strong understanding of the language structure and the mechanics. So this is the first advantage. This system approach can be particularly advantageous for learners who prefer a structured analytical style of learning. Through translational exercise, learners are exposed to new vocabulary in both English and language, which can enhance vocabulary. So also, this approach promotes vocabulary, helps learners to acquire a lot of vocabulary. The direct comparison between words into language can aid retention for some students. The emphasis on reading English texts can significantly increase reading comprehension skills. So with this approach, you can increase, because students read passages, read a lot of passages, and try to translate these passages to understand by translating them into their native language, and this can promote their comprehension skills. GTM can be particularly useful for learning classical language or in context, where primary goal is to read and understand written text rather than to develop a communication sense. So to read and understand. The processes of analyzing and comparing the grammatical structure of English and the learner's native language can also improve native language skills. Native language skills. So this is some advantages of using. So also with its focus on grammar, this gives the learners the ability to having strong understanding of the language structure and mechanics. This is the first. Students will have a rich vocabulary. Students will increase reading comprehension skills. What else? As you see here, the analyzing comparing grammatical structure of English learners' native language can also improve native language skills. Analyzing comparing the grammatical structure of English and the learners' native language can improve native language skills. comparison between grammatical structure of English and their native language. So improve native language skills. What else? So grammar, vocabulary, comprehension skills, and improve. So this is some advantages of using these grammar translation methods. Now let's see the disadvantages of using and criticism of the grammar translation method. A major drawback is significant neglect of speaking. So this approach neglects speaking and listening skills. The overwhelming focus on reading and writing leaves little room for developing the ability to communicate only, which is primary goal for many language learners. So I think this approach doesn't, its primary goal is not to communicate, trainers to communicate only, but just it focuses on reading and writing rather than speaking and listening. So this is it's one of the drawbacks, disadvantages. Many learners find the grammar method to be tedious and boring. They found it boring because students, they don't have the chance to speak their language, to do something with the language. Many learners find the grammar method to be tedious and boring. Many repetitive nature of grammar drills and tutoring exercise coupled with a lack of communicative interaction can be demotivating and may not cater to diverse learning style. So this approach doesn't cater for learning styles because it doesn't give the chance to learners to speak, to use the language, to do something with the language. This model of laws and national order of language learning prioritizing reading and writing before listening and speaking. So it doesn't follow a natural order of language learning. It prioritizes reading and writing before listening and speaking. So go listen. Teaching vocabulary as isolated word without section context can limit learners' understanding the various meaning and use of words. So when we teach vocabulary as isolated words, we don't teach vocabulary in context, in communicative situations. We teach it, and this can lead to can limit learners' understanding the various meaning and use of words. Students might struggle to use word X correctly in different situations if they have only learned their direct translation without students cannot use the words in communicative situation because they don't learn it in communicative situation. They don't learn it in meaningful situations. So that's why you find problems in using the words. The grammar method gives little or no attention to pronunciation. Of course, it doesn't give importance to pronunciation. This can lead to development of poor pronunciation habits and make it difficult to correct later. The teacher results in limited student interaction. So within this approach, there is a limited student interaction and collaboration. So I think disadvantages and criticism of this grammar is so it neglects speaking and listening skills. Many learners feel bored because they are not engaged in communicative situation, because they don't learn grammar, rules, structure, and vocabulary items in communicative situations. Learners have problems with pronunciation because this approach doesn't give much importance to pronunciation. This approach is not a learner-centered representation approach, and so there is a limited student interaction and collaboration. So it doesn't cater for learning style, learning interests, because some students want to engage in communicative situation, because students want to speak the language, we make use of the language. Students find problems in using the target vocabulary items or the target structures because they don't